Hello and welcome to my review of Bastion. This will be the first in a series of approximately 211 reviews because that's how many games I have on Steam. I have this many games, but I've only completed about 2 of them. These reviews will be a first look after I've just completed the game. Give you a kind of overview of what's good and what's negative in the game. So let's start with Bastion. What have I got to say about Bastion? First, we're going to talk about the art direction of the game, including the sound. So, you may have heard this about Bastion, you may not, but the main unique feature is the narrator. So, the narrator, as well as being a standard narrator and giving narration over cutscenes and that kind of thing, also narrates normal gameplay. So, as you're playing through the game, you might be rolling around, you might be killing something, but the narrator will make an interesting comment about that. It's not just like, you killed an enemy. That's boring. It's not interesting. Who wants to hear that? Nobody wants to hear that. So the narrator in this game will give some kind of unique comment on that. The story itself is, I mean, it's alright, but it's nothing new or exciting. It wouldn't be brilliant by itself, but what makes it good is the storytelling, the narrator, the way it's told, the way you find out about the characters and the story throughout the game. You can buy a version of the game which comes with the soundtrack, and for the price I bought it for, it would be worth it just for the soundtrack, to be honest. It's an excellent individual album by itself, but also, as with all great soundtracks, as you're playing for a level, kind of an appropriate song will come on, and it will just emphasise what the level's about. So, you know, you've got a chase level where you're trying to run away from something, you get some frantic music, or you've got a point in the story where it's all sad, then you'll have some lovely emotional music going on. What's next on my list? Art. You can see the art in front of you. We've got a 2D isometric game, kind of cartoon style. One of the other unique things, I don't know if it's unique, but I haven't seen it before, so it's unique to me, is the way the level rises above you as you go through it. Which, interesting twist. But the main good thing about the art is the variation. So each level will have something new, different themes, different what's the word? Different environments, different bioscapes. Going to be fancy. That's probably not a real word. Anyway, talk about audio and visual side of the game. Now we're going to talk about the gameplay. There's 11 weapons in the game, and they're all useful. They all have a different use. This is unlike some games where, you know, you start with a weapon, you throw it away, you get a better weapon, and you never use the weapon you get at the start of the game. But in Bastion, all the weapons are equally good and fit different people's playstyles, different ways you want to do it. So there's 76 different combinations of weapons, so that's 76 different ways you can play the game. Which, I mean, there's got to be something for everyone there. You get the weapons throughout the game as well, so you don't just start with them and kind of overwhelmed. You get them one at a time, so you get to try them out, see if you like it, try out different things, and eventually you'll unlock all of them, and you can play with your own personal style. I myself used the first weapon you get in the game, and the third weapon. So it's not like the last weapons are OP or anything. So, levels. What are the levels like? What's the game like in terms of playing through it? The levels always add something new. So you might have, I mean, I've said before about the art theme, which is one thing. So you might have some new artwork, some new thematic thing. But also you'll have a new enemy maybe, or a new part of the environment which you have to interact with. You might have a different kind of objective for the level. The objectives are all basically the same, but there might be a different way of doing it. So you might have to fight a boss, you might have to do an epic battle where you have allies and loads of enemies, you might have to run away, you might have to go up a ladder. Do you have to go up ladders on this game? I don't think there's ladders, I just made that up. You might have to go on a barge, that's better, kind of floating barge. So there's always something new, and you don't ever feel like you're playing just the same level which looks different, or anything like that. So another thing about the levels, they're not just you walk along a straight line. There's often multiple ways you can go, although only one of them will actually get you to the end of the level. The other ways will reward you with items or money, experience, you know, the kind of standard RPG action adventure things. But, it doesn't mean you have to explore, because there's actually a shop in the game, a building you can build, which allows you to buy the items you missed. So it's good for everyone. Moving on, there's lots of side content. If you're the kind of person who likes doing loads of mini games, getting all the achievements, fully completing a game, there's plenty for you. but you don't have to complete it, because you know some games where there's kind of side quests, and to actually do the main quest you have to do the side quest, because otherwise you're underleveled, you're underpowered, you can't really do anything. In Bastion you don't have to do the side content, you can just play through the story. The story itself takes probably 6 hours, the side content maybe 8 or 9, but there's a lot of replayability, so you might see it as a short game, but I mean, I've said about all the weapons, there's a lot of other customization too, which I haven't talked about, but there is. So you can play the game through plenty of times. So one particular bit of side content I want to talk about is the arena style mode they have, waves of enemies, you know, the standard thing. But in Bastion they've added a slight twist, an interesting Bastion variation, where in between every wave you have the narrator who will elucidate some kind of backstory to the character or the world that you're in. So you're not just there mindlessly killing people, you're actually learning about the story and the characters in the game as you do it. Difficulty of the game. So is it easy? Is it hard? Well, it's whatever you want it to be. The base level is fairly easy. You won't feel like you're getting stuck at any point. But you can ramp up the difficulty. There are things called idols in the game which you activate, kind of like skulls if you played Halo. I'm sure there's other examples in other games, it's not a new feature, but which kind of increase the difficulty in some way. They might make the enemy stronger or faster, or explode when they die. So you can tweak the difficulty to suit your needs, and you will be rewarded for putting these on. You'll get more experience and money. That's pretty much everything I can say about the game. There's not really many negatives. The only negative I can think is they add in quite a lot of features in the last couple of levels in the game, which you play for maybe 20 minutes or something, half an hour, which aren't anywhere else in the game, which just seems odd. You don't get to jump until the last level of the game, which I don't know why. Maybe they ran out of time. And also, there are choices in the game, but they're all in the last level, or after the last level, so that's again seems odd that they've introduced this thing right at the end of the game, and it's not part of the rest of the game. But that doesn't make the game any worse for it, it just seems like they maybe could have done with a bit more time to put that kind of stuff in. Is it a good game? Yes, it's a very good game. I could recommend it. Even if you're just going to play the story through once and for 6 hours, it's definitely worth your time just because of how unique the story is told. And it's also a very fun game in itself. Definitely recommend also buying the soundtrack if you can. This was Cowplays, and I hope you found that to be the Bastion review you've ever watched.